Right, let's get straight into it. Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today, because we're tackling a question so fundamental, so seemingly basic that it honestly borders on the absurd. What is life? Now, it sounds incredibly simple, doesn't it? You and I are alive, a stone on the ground is not. But as we'll see in this comprehensive biological overview, the exact moment you try to pin this concept down in a strict academic setting, well, things get remarkably complicated. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what I mean. To ask what life is often the last one that biologists wish to answer before lunch. It's a fantastic, rather dry observation from our source material. So why the dread? Why the hesitation? Because nature is, frankly, a bit cheeky. Just when you think you've drafted the perfect, airtight biological law, nature consistently provides us with inconvenient, rule-breaking specimens that just completely shatter our perfectly tidy definitions.
Section 1. The definition that refuses.
So, why do simple, clean definitions of life always seem to collapse under scrutiny? Well, as our source points out, a poor definition usually fails by an excess of confidence in a single property. We try to find one magical biological substance and elevate it to a throne, but nature doesn't really do monarchies of definitions. Just consider the sheer variety of these rule breakers. Think about a salmon, for instance. It reproduces once and then promptly dies. A bacterium simply divides without any ceremony at all. Then you have a seed wading through years of drought with the patience of a saint and the metabolism of an absolute miser, seemingly dead but entirely capable of sprouting. And my personal favorite, the virus, borrowing a host cell and then behaving with the absolute confidence of a terrible landlord. These are the specific edge cases that ruin our tidy little sentences.
The absolutely crucial point here is what happens when we try to use singular signs to define life. If we nominate, say, metabolism as the gold standard of living, well, suddenly we have to invite a candle flame into the room as it consumes fuel and maintains its structure quite happily. What about growth? Crystals grow, and they do so with a straight-faced imitation of biological ambition. You see, we simply cannot define a living thing merely by a single parlor trick that non-living chemistry can mimic just as well.
Section 2. 5 criteria of life.
So, if we can't rely on a single magic trait, where on earth does that leave us? We have to completely pivot away from searching for some magic biological substance, and instead prepare to reconstruct a much more robust systemic definition. We need a constitutional settlement among several criteria, not a dictatorship of one. Enter the Pentagon of Life, which outlines 5 essential coordinated criteria: boundary, metabolism, information, regulation, and reproduction. A living system isn't just one of these things. It's the patterned, maintained continuity across all of them. One criterion on its own, that's merely an anecdote. The coordinated pattern of all 5, now that is the definitive argument for life.
Which brings us to a crucial philosophical shift. Life is not a substance like salt or gold, it is a mode of organization. It's fascinating to think about, but the exact same carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms that compose mud make up your living body right now. The difference isn't the atoms themselves, it's their patterned relations maintained continuously through the flow of energy. A living body is less like a static stone statue and much more like a candle flame, though crucially, a flame that inherently contains the instructions for making its own successors.
Now, please don't let equation 1.1 alarm you. We aren't demanding mathematical heroism today, I promise. It is simply a way of formally, elegantly organizing our thoughts. It groups the exact 5 variables we just discussed. M for metabolically available matter, E for energy, I for information, B for boundary, and R for reproductive capacity. It perfectly expresses that a living system is a coordinated whole. If one of these components collapses irreversibly, the others follow with the disagreeable loyalty of a line of dominoes.
Then we have equation 1.2, which introduces time and environment into the mix. It basically tells us that the state of this living biological system changes according to its current organization, its environment, and its inherited constraints over time. What this effectively proves is that an organism is neither a passive puppet of its surroundings, nor is it some sovereign king sealed safely inside a glass box. It is in a constant, dynamic negotiation with the world around it.
Section 3. Climbing biological scales.
Right. So we've established what a living system does at a basic definitional level. But the true majesty of biology is that this exact definition has to apply across wildly different levels of physical magnitude. We trace the biological explanation upwards, from the very tiniest molecule to an organelle, a cell, tissue, a full organism, and all the way out to an entire ecosystem.
And it's not just a ladder pointing steadily upwards either. Biological causes travel both upwards and downwards. The environment shapes the cell just as much as the cell shapes the environment. This leads to a rather beautiful synthesis, actually. Neither chemistry alone nor ecology alone is biology. The science lives in the negotiated ascent between them. Biology bridges this immense gap between raw bubbling chemistry and broad sprawling ecology. And crucially, it has to pay rent at every single floor. You literally cannot understand the forest without understanding the leaf, and you cannot understand the leaf without understanding the chloroplast.
Section 4. Death as a biological category.
It is a slightly sobering pivot here, I'll admit. But to truly explain what life is, we also have to understand its absence. The end of life must be understood through these exact same biological scales. A single cell collapsing, perhaps shedding from a leaf in autumn, is fundamentally different from the death of an entire organism, which is in turn utterly distinct from the extinction of a lineage. Death isn't merely the cessation of chemistry, it's the collapse of a maintained organization at a highly specific biological scale.
And the crucial point is captured beautifully right here. A dead cell, a dead organism, and a dead lineage are not the same object wearing different hats. A cell might die while the tree itself persists quite happily. A lineage may go extinct long after its individuals lived vigorously. The warning here for us is crystal clear. While death is incredibly destructive, we must avoid defining a thing chiefly by the manner in which it stops being itself. We must always focus on the persistent organization of life.
Section 5. Unity and diversity.
Okay, it's time to zoom all the way out and observe the overarching planetary facts of biological existence. All living things, whether you're a microbe bubbling away in a deep-sea vent, a towering redwood, or a human sitting there watching this explainer, we are all distinct historical experiments branching from a common, incredibly ancient root. It's the concept of a last universal common ancestor, and it absolutely underpins the entirety of evolutionary biology.
What you should really take away from this is the dual nature of biology. There is profound unity. We all use ATP as an energy currency, we share genetic codes, our cellular ribosomes all do basically the exact same job. Yet sitting right alongside that unity is an absolute explosion of diversity. Bacteria, archaea, fungi, plants, and animals are extravagantly unbothered by that underlying unity. They take the basic cellular machinery and push it into wildly different, completely spectacular forms of existence. Right, let's bring the whole shebang together. After navigating the edge cases, the scales, and the criteria, we arrive at this hard-earned working definition. Life is the condition of a bounded, self-maintaining chemical system that uses energy and information to regulate itself and belongs to an evolutionary lineage capable of reproduction with variation. Is it a bit clunky? Perhaps. But as our text wisely notes, accuracy is simply a tax upon elegance. So, as you look at the living world around you today, I want to leave you with a thought. If life is merely an ancient, unbroken chemical process maintaining its own boundaries, are we truly sovereign individuals, or just highly complex, temporary caretakers of a 3 billion-year-old flame?